I feel like since I ever discovered mashups, I've never been able to go back.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's all you listen to.
it's so good. It's like it just feeds the ADHD in me. It's like
There might be like a deeper explanation.
It's like 10 seconds and then a different song, and it's like yeah. And then we're complaining we live in a goldfish attention world.
Yeah. All right.
Let us know in the comments. Do you like the country mix?
I love it, man. I think like this is
top.
This is like the perfect mix for Katie that loves country. I mean, I love electronic music. This is the road trip mix.
It's a good one. It's a good one. I do like this one a lot. I will put it in maybe top 5 we've put on the show.
Look at you. Look at you.
Yeah.
You ready, Fonz?
I feel like we've only put like, it's on the top 5 or we've
You
only
completely
used,
ignore my question. Are you ready, Fonz?
we've only used 3 mixes.
You completely ignore my question. Are you ready, Fonz?
I am 100%
You are just making
ready.
time. What's up, everybody? Happy Monday. Welcome. Wow, bro.
I'm so bright.
That was so bright. What's happening? My goodness. Welcome, everybody. Happy Monday today.
It's getting a little warm in here because it's about to go down.
It's about to go down.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Fonzie, how was your weekend? Good?
It was good, yeah. I rested.
You ignored my gaming request.
I know, I did.
I never requested you for gaming, so
I left my controller
Yeah.
here, so that I need to bring home tonight, so then we can play.
Yeah.
But how was our game today?
There you go. Let us know in the comments. What was your weekend planned? Welcome back to this week. Ready to get some momentum in life and business. Let's go.
Edwin,
Hey
let's go.
guys, it's gonna be fire. That is right. Edwin, how you doing, my man?
Did you say that is right, or you say that is right?
That is right. Wow, bro.
You say that is right.
Well, according to him, our dad was right all the time. Anyways,
that's
all
true.
right. Ready to go?
I'm ready.
All right. Am I ready? Okay. Yes, I
Yeah.
am ready.
Make sure you pause the mix right here because there's about a good song, so you can listen to it later.
Okay, sounds good. Here we go.
We've got some
Hey,
fresh
I'm
New York
Luis.
talent
And I'm
doing some
Luis.
things
And you're
I know
listening
you
to the
haven't heard
Content is
before.
Profit podcast.
Where we talk about entrepreneurship, mindset, and of course, how to turn your content into profit. But most importantly, we are here to have a good time with you.
Go to contentsprofit.com to get started today and join the community. I almost forgot that you added that part in there, man.
Me too.
Thank God I am reading this script.
Yes, I almost forgot as
You
well.
almost forgot as
Yeah,
well. Okay, you wrote it.
I know.
Guys,
Hey,
importance for those creating content out there, keep your cheat sheet handy.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
The cheat sheet has been lifesaver, guys.
Yes.
But today we have an incredible guest, and we're talking all about. Are we gonna have to bleep this? No bleeping.
No blipping, bro.
No
Go.
bleeping. We're talking about fuck being fine.
Yes.
What does that mean?
We see our
I don't
guests
know. We're about
smiling
to
and
figure it
laughing
out.
in the background. Maybe. We'll see. I mean, we'll have to dig in this. Yeah.
I know. I'm excited.
How are you, Fonzie?
I already have like a good
How are you,
segment.
Fonzie?
Me?
Yeah.
I am great.
There you go. Yeah, trick question.
I
in
know. I was
there.
about to say fine. I was like, no.
Hey, do we have a sponsor today?
Indeed we do. Thank you for asking, good sir. Today's sponsor is your own, the BIZBROS. Yes, we sponsor our own podcast with Content Momentum. And you might be asking yourself, what is Content Momentum? Well, if you need a fractional content team to help you leverage your time and efforts and create more content out of the long form pieces of content that you're already creating, such as this podcast that you're listening to or watching, slide in the DMs at BIZBROS on
or
Facebook.
in simple words, right?
Yeah.
Consistent daily content. There we go. All right,
Yes.
good job.
Oh, that's good. That's
There you
good.
go.
Yeah.
All right, we talked about this, man. Come on.
I know. I'm always changing it up.
All right, guys, go ahead and follow the show on your favorite podcasting platform and on social media at BIZBROS Go, because every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, these episodes are dropping right on your phone to create incredible momentum in your life and your business.
That is right. And if today's guests help you move one step forward towards your goal, please don't forget to share this episode with 3 friends. That, my friend, is your ticket of admission. And don't forget to leave a 5-star review. Thank you.
That and is becoming your like staple thing.
It's so smooth. And I need a shirt that you
sure.
said and.
All right. Today's friend is a good friend that is currently dedicating her life to help others live with more clarity and by their own rules.
Oh, yeah, that is right. We met her through the Badass Business Summit. pretty appropriate given her own badassery. And she is here today to help you become more aware and uncover the questions buried inside of you.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to take a look into the depths of my soul. Really, Fonzie. Really. Also, today's guest is the host of the F.I.N.E is a 4-letter word podcast, a lifelong entrepreneur, and a public speaker. All right, hold on. Before you go there, okay. Before we started this show, I'm like, dude, why are you so close, like, to the show with like writing the intros? And I know the theory. I know why. It's because
so
you don't want me to read it before we actually go live. Anyways, all right, we're ready to rock and roll.
And I hope you are ready as well. Please welcome the one and only
Lori
Saitz. What's up, Lori?
Thank you so much for having me. I can already tell this is just going to be a wild ride.
Yeah. Let me tell you, it ain't going to be fine, okay?
It's gonna be amazing. All right, so clearly, I mean, we have to start there, right? Like, we have to start. Why are we fucking being fine? I mean, clearly, we have to put a warning in this. We got to put a warning in the front of this episode, Fonzie.
All right, yeah, but I think before we get there, Lori, first of all, thank you for being here so much. And for those that might not be familiar with the badass Lori, can you share a little bit of your story? Right? Let's give a little bit of context before we dive deep into the depth of my brother's soul.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Might be a little scary, but we'll get back to it. Yeah, no. My background is in marketing and corporate communications and broadcasting. I started my first business in 2003, where I was making and marketing a product called the Gratitude Cookie based on a family recipe, and marketing it as a tool for businesses to use to say thank you to their clients and to people who sent them referrals. Ran that business into the ground. No, I ran that business for 11 years.
Wow.
I couldn't scale it quite the way I wanted to. So I ended up shutting it down, went back into marketing consulting, started teaching networking strategies, actually. How to walk into a room full of people you don't know and start a conversation. And then pandemic, and nobody was going anywhere. So then I changed, somebody asked me to come back and start talking about gratitude again. And that pulled me back into this whole world of talking about gratitude and then building on that meditation and visualization. And it just kind of snowballed into the whole F.I.N.E is a 4-letter word podcast and the Fuck Being Fine experience.
Yes, let's go.
I love it.
We have to talk definitely on communication and broadcasting. Maybe later. I don't know, but we'll see.
Yeah, we're gonna put it in there for sure.
That's gonna be so good. Cookies, please. You have to share the recipe. Like, it has to happen. I don't know. Like, you have to send it to us at some degree. It's gonna become the Contents Profit official cookie.
Yeah, you know what? There are a lot of people who would like me to bring this cookie back to the world. I don't know. Well, we'll see. I sold all the equipment. Everything is gone.
It's okay.
Hey, does it mean we can pick it back up, right? Okay. Lori,
maybe.
I have a question, right? Like, 11 years is a long time in business, right? I mean, you hear it's like, I don't remember the exact stat, but it's like 90% of businesses, 95% of businesses fail in the first 5 years, right? And then out of those 5% that are left, like the 90% of those fail in the next 5 years again. Something like that is like crazy. So being in the game for 11 years, that's a big, big feat, right? What did you learn in those years? Like, what were some of the big lessons that you took away with you that you're now implementing in your current business?
Well, first of all, it lasted that long because I'm stubborn. So lots of lessons. So one of the biggest lessons is you have to have a support team. You have to have peers around you, because as an entrepreneur, the people who are not entrepreneurs in your world, they don't get you. On those days when you are just like, screw it, I can't do this anymore, they're going to say, okay, well, just go get a job. You need your other entrepreneurial friends or colleagues or whatever, peers, to be able to say, all right, let's look at this, or step away from it for a day or two and come back. You need them to support you in the challenging times and to celebrate with you in the successful times. So that's the first thing for sure. Yeah. And then you need to go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, like, we totally relate. I think one of the things that have helped us, right? We're not close to 11 years, but we've been together for a few years now doing this thing, and I don't think we would have been there. I even sometimes sit down and be like, am I actually gonna continue to do this without FONZI, for example? Like, is that even, like, if that becomes an option where like he decides he wants to do something else, do I have the strength to do this on my own, right? And the answer is, I don't know. Like, we've been very fortunate to be on the same page in a lot of things and share this journey together. And I think that's one of the things that with people such like yourself that you come to the show, that's one of the first lessons. They're like, man, like, try to find that one person or like those two people that, even if they're not part of your own business, that you can communicate on a consistent basis to be able to, like, okay, like, this is the journey I'm facing. I don't want to really face it alone, because it is challenging. It's a roller coaster, not only of emotions, but growth, and things will go south many times. So yes, thank you for sharing that. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Any other big lesson of that? Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say it most oftentimes is not somebody else in your business. It's somebody outside of your business who's running their own business. Yeah, that's supporting you.
What led you to gratitude, right? Because we've experienced the effect of gratitude big time. That's a daily practice that we have with our team. We have a daily meeting that we call daily huddle, right? And we start every single daily huddle.
We don't call it the daily huddle anymore. It's the morning fire.
Sounds good. That is our internal branding. Yes, the morning fire meeting, but for the world out there, this is a daily huddle. Sounds good. Morning fire. We started with a gratitude round. Like, everybody goes around and says, like, what am I grateful for today, right? And that can be personal, it can be in the job. And at first, like, it felt a little awkward, but then people could not start the meeting without it, right? Like, they were like, this is probably one of our favorite parts of our day. And we love to start our meetings and things like that. And it became this habit. So we started it after a period of, like, a very painful period. There was a lot of personal stuff in there. But, like, what led you to that? Because we've implemented it with other businesses that we help, and the initial reaction is very negative. They don't want to do it, right? And they're like,
really?
Yeah. I know. After your answer, like, if you're curious, I'll explain to you what kind of, like, environment that is. But it turned positive. Like, after we practice it for a little bit, it's not natural for people to go there, right? Like, that I guess that's what I meant, right?
Yeah, so it is not natural. You're right. It's not natural. And it's funny because when I started that business, I wasn't a very grateful person either. So it was a little bit ironic because, here I was selling gratitude and I wasn't a very grateful person. And my mentor at the time and friend, Paul, challenged me to read. Do you know the book of The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles?
Have not read it. I've heard about it.
Yeah, it's really old, like 1935, something like that. 29, I don't know, one of those, like 100 years ago almost. So chapter 7 in that book is on gratitude. Each chapter is like 3 or 4 pages. And so Paul challenged me to read chapter 7 for 30 days, once in the morning and once at night, to kind of just really ingrain that whole concept of gratitude in my head. And I did it. And I mean, because for some reason I think we may be born grateful, because we're pretty much a blank slate, but I think everybody is born with good intentions, with goodness in them. And then it kind of gets programmed out because we get trained to focus on the negative or the more, I think that's part of evolution. Like, we didn't want to get eaten by animals, so we focused on the threats as opposed to the positive, good things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I feel like I was actually listening to this book called Actually, I forgot how the book is called, but it's
Studio clap for that.
It's a really good one, though.
It's a really good book. It's called Exactly What to Say by Phil Jones. Now I remember.
You knew exactly what to say in that moment,
Yeah,
Fonzie.
I clearly knew. Stole the words out of my mouth. And he's talking about in one of the phrases, right? Because he gives like these key phrases to share in specific moments, right, to help your negotiation. One of them, when he's giving the breakdown, he's talking about people's motivation. And people's motivation is either to gain something or to run away from fear, right? Usually. And human nature tends more to go towards running away from like fear of something bad happening. Like it is proven scientifically that people will take bigger action by avoiding something bad. And I think that's why you see so much marketing around going talking in that way as well, which at the same time is just like reinforcing those thoughts on people, right? And it's, I personally think it's a dangerous thing, right? I mean, the news, like I personally don't watch the news, but you can see it every single time. Like I don't know. I feel like I would turn that thing on and I would be depressed after like 5 minutes, just because it's like most of it, right? I'm not saying, no, I'm over generalizing in here a little bit, but it's negativity, 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 right? And it's because they know the human brain is just like that. So how do we reframe, right? Or a thought process to focus more on the positive and in gratitude instead of, fear?
That's exactly what you have to do is reprogram, rewire your brain, and doing the things like you're doing every morning in your what was it again? The internal fire, morning fire.
Morning fire.
Morning fire.
Yeah. Do you cook your coffee over that too?
Yeah. Pretty much.
Okay.
Yep.
No, so what you're doing is you're reprogramming, you're rewiring your brain, because we live in a society, like you said, that people watch the news and their brains get programmed by what they see on the news. We look at social media, and for the most part, it's not all happy, and it's trying to reprogram and rewire your brain as well. And which has been done throughout centuries by parents and society and religion and peers, but now it's happening even faster with social media and all kinds of media. So yes, you have to deliberately take back your programming and take it into your own hands, which is exactly what you're doing, and focusing on gratitude and finding opportunities, like looking. So have you ever heard that phrase that you'll always find what you're looking for? So if you're looking for negative, you'll find plenty of it. If you're looking for positive, you'll find plenty of that as well.
Yeah.
So this is, sorry, I'm gonna take over here for a little bit.
Sounds good, bro.
I don't remember the exact scientific word for it, but there's a part of our brain that is aware of certain things, right? And that's, for example, when you're gonna buy a new car, right? Let's say my brother, when he wanted his Jeep, he was just seeing Jeeps everywhere, right? It's because his brain is kind of like priming that frame of where are the Jeeps? These are the things that I'm attracting. And then all of a sudden you start thinking it must be a sign. I probably need to get a Jeep, right?
Or when your girlfriend is like, hey, my period is late, and then you start seeing babies all around.
Wow. That was very quick. I'm gonna avoid that one.
In my case, that was my wife, so it's good.
So yeah, this one sounds very quick. Lori, so
Yes.
the point is that if we focus on the negative, right, that part of the brain is gonna be looking subconsciously. Wow, that's a tough big word right there.
Subconsciously, yes.
Subconsciously, there we go. Thank you for those negative things all around, right? And I think gratitude, especially doing it first thing in the morning or early, right? Even at night as well. It just primes that part of the brain to look for all those positive things, right? And it's so easy to fall for, this is going bad for me, right? It's so easy. But I feel like the more you put these things into practice, and this is something actually I was talking on the phone before this podcast, and I was telling my friend, like, wow, one of the things I'm grateful for is that I've realized that lately I'm very, very aware of, when bad things happen that I can change. I'm like, okay, I'm in full control of this. Let me change my mindset. and it's very powerful. It's still very difficult to change the mindset. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm still sometimes like conscious about it. I'm like, and I'm just down there, all sad. But the fact that I'm aware of it right now, I know I can control it. That is already immense power. I feel that I'm in control of this situation. I can turn it around whenever I want.
Yes, you just made a really good point, which is that we are in control of our own minds. We can control, we can control what we think about. At the same time, we are human and we have emotions. So if you're feeling sad, it's not necessary for you to immediately go, "Oh, I'm feeling sad," and beat yourself up for feeling sad or angry or any of those emotions. Feel them. Allow yourself to feel them and know that you can change how you feel by thinking differently. It's okay to feel what you feel. You know, I on my podcast, I talk to a lot of guests who were taught that they were actually not taught to have emotions. They were taught that in their families, they do not have emotions. They don't express anger, fear, sadness. There's just no emotion at all.
No.
That's not how humans are wired. So it is a matter of feeling the emotion and then choosing if you want to feel a better emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's good. Well, we mentioned it last podcast, right? I had an experience with my 2-year-old the other day. Like he locked himself in the room, right? And I was like late to our morning fire and the calls and the thing, and then I had to be in this place. And I was like for like an hour, right? And I got really frantic, and I was like, well, first let's get the kid out of the room, right? Like he's 2, we got him out of the room, right? But after that, messages are coming in, like, hey, where are you? Like this is the link, or whatever. Like I need to drop him off. When I'm dropping him off, he threw a tantrum, right? Probably the reflection of how I was feeling in that at that time, right? And then one of the things that really helped me was like Fonzie was saying, like, and not only him has been aware of that, but also me. And it's like I identify that this is how I'm feeling right now, which is it's okay, right? But let's take a second, take a deep breath. And what I did immediately after was like, hey, this might not be the ideal situation, but what am I grateful for, right? Like going back to this like daily practice. And it's like, dude, I have amazing in-laws that took my kid when he was in the middle of a tantrum, right, to give him breakfast, for example, right? I have a car that I can move around. There's like, we have a team that we're about to meet that helps us with our service, like all these things that maybe we take for granted. But when you take that second and recognize them immediately, it was incredible. Like immediately, my mindset completely shifted, right? And I want to like bring maybe this into
the morning fire burn through your negativity.
Absolutely, it's just like boom, gone. But I want to bring it right on a little bit on the context of content creation and content production side of things, right? When we launched our 45 live challenge, it was the first time a lot of people were going live in front of a camera, in front of a phone forever, right? Like, and a lot of fear can come to that, right? A lot of things are going to happen. We're going to make mistakes, right? There's nobody going to be tuning in, right?
Some are going to say inappropriate things.
Some are going to say inappropriate things, like LUISDA over here. Like things are going to happen, right? But then how do we deal with that? Is gonna affect the rest either of that production, or is going to affect the rest of that strategy, maybe for your business, right? If you are the one running that. So I want to bring that back and be like, okay, what those principles that you're sharing right now and that way of living on, like, how do I approach these problems? Apply it if you're producing whatever, a podcast, a video, right? Whatever content wise, because it's going to happen. So, okay, let's identify how we feel, which is okay. It's normal. Everybody goes through that. Even massive producers, people that are creating at the highest level, they still live with those things. Like, okay, sounds good. I recognize it. How am I going to tackle this situation now? What am I grateful for? I'm grateful that I have the opportunity to actually share my message, right? I'm actually grateful that somebody listens and took action. Remember those moments when somebody listened to something that you said, appreciated it, applied it into their daily life, got results. That is massive, right? Whether that's one person or 1,000. That is incredible. So I love this topic. I love it.
Yeah, well, the one thing is that, first of all, to be grateful that you're opening the mic, turning on the camera, you're in the arena to go. There's that quote about the man in the arena. You're in there. So you're already a step ahead of the people who aren't even doing that much. But what I wanted to talk about too was that gratitude and meditation, it changes your biochemistry. So I mentioned it rewires your brain. It changes the chemistry in your brain. It helps you release more serotonin and dopamine, which are the feel-good chemicals. It really helps your body release less cortisol, which is the stress chemical.
Mhm.
All of these things that it's doing, this rewiring process, is really helping you become more grounded, calm, which then means that you are more focused and more effective in what you're doing. So that's where the real benefits come in when you start talking about in terms of work and how you work. You can make better decisions. You can come from a place of responding instead of reacting.
Yep.
It makes you a better business person. So when I started that first business with the gratitude cookies, I looked at what the most successful business leaders in the world and top athletes were doing. And you'll notice that the majority of them practice meditation, and they not just practice it like in hiding, they credit a lot of their success to the fact that they meditate. Yes, you still have to do the work, and they do. However, meditation, gratitude puts them in this place of being ready to do the work in the most efficient way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think about probably the last person people would think and relate to like meditation, that state, but is Gary Vee. Like he talks about that thing all the time. He's like gratitude, 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 right? And I'm impressed. I mean, he's been talking about that for years. Obviously, there's other people I've been talking about for way more. But I feel like for the audience that he talks about, right? He talks to people about hustle, right? And those are people that don't slow down enough sometimes to feel that gratitude and have that practice. So I'm curious, Lori, obviously this cookie business and gratitude, I think it affected that transition to the new business in a way, right? I read part of your story, so I kind of like know a little bit that you have on your website, just so you know. And
hashtag stalker.
Hashtag stalker. Right? So,
It's all good.
I'm curious. I want to hear that explanation from your side, right? Like your more personal point of view on what happened at the end of those 11 years. I know you were feeling some type of way, right? And what kicked that transition into what you're doing right now?
Yeah. So I had decided, because I couldn't scale the business, I had decided to close it. And at that same time, not because, but at the same time, my mom was diagnosed with an acute form of leukemia, and she passed away about 6 weeks later. And so, I was mourning the death of my business and my mom at the same time, and thinking about what is it that I want to do with my life now? Because do I want to live the next 20 years the same way I lived the last 20? And that's not to say, I have to always say, that's not to say that the previous 20 were terrible. They weren't. They weren't at all. They were pretty good, pretty great. It's just a reevaluation. Okay, now what do I want to do moving forward? Because my mom was only 73 years old. So to me, that's pretty young.
Yeah.
And so none of us know how long we have. Some of us get, Betty White 99 years, and some of us don't even get 50. So
Yeah.
what do you want to do to make the most of those years? And that's what I started thinking about when I was going through that whole transition period. And I don't know if this is where you wanted to lead me, but I was married then, and was one of the things that I was thinking about of, do I want to stay in this relationship that is with an amazing, amazing person? However, the relationship is fine. It's fine. It's not great. And it really wasn't serving either one of us anymore. But you know what? It's so hard to leave fine. Whether fine is a job, my business was fine for a couple of years, and I just let it be fine. Maybe I should have shut it down sooner, because it was fine, but it's hard. It's hard to leave fine, whether fine is a job, a relationship, a health condition. Like, oh, it's fine. But I decided that fine was not okay to live the rest of my life. And that's why I just
it's the
changed
moment that,
everything.
it is a decision away, right? Like that, and that takes a lot of guts, and kudos to you for making that choice, right? Because it's not easy. It's like, and we're laughing at the beginning because, like, we have this mentor, right? And we have I had a great moment when I met him. And I used to manage a fitness studio, and he was a member in that fitness studio. And I didn't know his past. I didn't know like what he did for a living. And he was like a 5 a.m. or like he'll take his workout 5 a.m. super early, right? And I was there, and when I opened the studio at 4:30, I had music going on, and I had people that would walk in at 4:30 in the morning, and they were just like, just woken up, right? They're like, dude, Luis, please put that music down. I just want to, be quiet for a second before like we go in there and do the workout. This guy will come in, and he was loud. He was like, what's up? Giving high fives. They were like, yeah, you're my kind of person, right? And one day he walks out, and and I go like, hey, have a good day, right? And he stops at the door. He turns around and he's like, no, have a great day. Have an amazing day, my man. And he walks out, and I'm like, what? And like that moment there, like, meant so much to me. And then years later, like he's one of our main mentors, and to this day, and we owe a lot of what we've done to working with him. But that mindset there that you say is like, hey, it's not just fine. And that's the joke. Like, hey, how are you doing? And recently we were in Montana at a different event, emceeing this thing, and that was one of the things. It's like, well, going through this day, in and out, and the answers and the things that we say, right? Well, guess what? I am not just fine. Things maybe in my life are falling apart, or maybe, this is how I really feel, right? Like, and I should not be apologetic of the way that I really feel about these things, right?
Like, practice radical honesty in that sense. It's like, a lot of people, they ask him, how are you? Oh, I'm fine. And he's like, you know what? I'm happy right now, but, in my life, I'm stressed because of X, Y, and Z. And you start dropping everything. And then the guy that shared that, he's like, either people leave me because they think I'm crazy, or they really, really connect with me because they say, wow, this guy is very authentic. But just like you say, right, it's very easy to leave. It's very difficult to leave fine, right? I feel like fine is predictable. Fine is a comfort zone, right? And
exactly.
Just so you know, I wasn't trying to like lead the conversation to that specific thing, but like it landed in there. And I do want to explore fine, honestly, right? And I mentioned this in the last episode that we, either the last one or 2 episodes ago, and it just blows my mind because it seems like the universe puts certain things on the plate right when I'm about to have an episode, and it blows my mind. Last night, I'm reading this book. It's called The Truth, and it's
remember the name of this one.
It's about relationships, and literally, it's this guy that is he pretty much is having a hard time. It's a memoir, actually, from a journalist, and he's having like a hard time committing to his partner. So he goes to this like therapy, whatever, and they ask him, how are you? And he's like, everything is fine. And everybody in therapy is like, ooh. And he's like, what? He's like, yeah, fine. This is what they told him. Fine actually means fucked up, insecure, neurotical, and emotional.
Yeah.
And I remember I read that, and I was like, wow, that's very interesting. A lot of people just say fine, right? And maybe they're not all 4 of those, but there are a few of those. And literally today, right, I'm like, oh, we're going to talk with Lori. And I started checking all, the podcast, your website, and I was like, no way. Like, let's go in depth into this. So yeah, tell me more about, how you discovered that about fine.
Yeah, actually, when I use the term fine as a 4-letter word for my podcast, that's not what I've heard that acronym, and that's not what it means. But I mean, for a lot of times it is. It's exactly what you said. In my term, it's just fine.
Yes.
It's the whole thing of people go around saying I'm fine when there's a dumpster fire going on and they don't want you to know about it. It's fine. There's 2 reasons they do that. It's one, because they don't want to burden you with their, as Fonzie just said, with all of their issues.
Yeah.
Or they don't want to even admit it to themselves. Like, they just want to keep it all wrapped up It's all good. I got it under control.
Yeah.
And so go ahead.
What tipped this scale for you? Like, what was that? Like, do you remember that moment when you're like, F this, like I'm doing something new, right? Like, because that moment when we make the decision, like it's, I remember, for example, a decision that we made that was probably, I mean, it was a little bit forced. It was when we lost almost all the business when COVID started, right? We were helping local business owners. And the decision there was like, okay, we were looking for an excuse to kind of get out of these accounts because like it wasn't serving us, it wasn't serving them. Like we were in a transition period. And the decision was like, dude, we have like 60 days, 2 months of runway. And we had no staff at the time. It was just us. And the decision was to do this. So I commit like debt to the show, right? And I remember that was a moment like in our business that we remember we'll treasure forever. And I remember that whole day exactly what happened. Did that happen with you when you made that decision? Where like, hey, I'm done with F.I.N.E. Like, what made you tip that scale?
I don't know that it was a specific incident. For a lot of people, it is, and for a lot of people, it is a forced decision. Like you said, it's something that is forced upon them.
Yeah.
Like they get fired from a job they've been at for 20 years, which happened to one of my guests. But deep inside, she knew it was time to go. She was just afraid to leave. And then the universe took care of that for her. And it's this, so for me, it was a lot of creeping up to the edge of the cliff and then backing away and going up and coming back like a lot. And then finally I just said, all right, we have to have this conversation. And I don't even remember what it was, why I picked that particular day or moment or whatever, but I had to have that conversation with my husband 4 times before he actually heard what I was saying and took me seriously. So that was just like, I say in my presentations, like, it's like ripping out your heart 4 times, stomping on it, because it's hard enough to have the conversation once, but then he didn't hear me or he didn't believe me. So I had to do it again and again and again. And that, that's just how it went. But, but sometimes, I mean, that's what you got to do. And that's why it's important to have like a coach or a mentor or somebody who can, what I say is, hold your hand and kick your ass at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. You again just remind me to something else I read on the book, and it's the definition of intimacy. Is sharing your reality with someone else and knowing you're safe, and then being able to share their reality with you and also being safe, right? And I mean, we talk about a little earlier creating that space, right? When they ask you, "Oh, how are you?" Well, if you say fine, you're lying on that space that you are, but you can create a space for very authentic relationships. And you never know what can come out of that when you're, putting yourself out there, and then, maybe you're feeling safe because that person, corresponds that emotion that you're putting out there into the world. And I think that's pretty important. And I think people are very afraid to put themselves out there nowadays. Now, with what you teach people, right, with their awareness, right, how to find their clarity and the strength to live their next 20 years more intentionally, right? And I was looking at it right now so I could properly read it. Like, what does this radical honesty, maybe that intimacy, putting themselves out there, right, for other people to perceive them as the real them, what does it mean? How do people start stepping into that as well? I do think this translates. It's not only about the personal life. This just drips all over your business life as well. The relationships that you get to build, whether that is through a podcast, through a speaking gig, like anywhere. I think it is extremely helpful. So what are those, if you don't mind me sharing a little bit?
Yeah, it's really all about connection. We are living in a time when people are starving for connection. We are connected more like, through social media, through, I look at my phone and I'm like, if there's one more way for people to get in touch with me, I'm going to pull out all my hair. I'm getting texts and phone calls and Voxers and direct messages from LinkedIn and Facebook and everywhere. And so we're plugged in, but we're not connected at the heart. And that's where, when you can get yourself to this place of being connected, as you said, of sharing what's really going on and making real connections.
Yeah.
That's when your whole life changes. Your whole business becomes real. People want to work with you because you are a real person, and your personal life becomes so much more fulfilled. Your soul is fulfilled. We
Yeah.
get into work. I think a lot of us entrepreneurs or people who are listening to your show are doing what they're doing because it fulfills something in their soul. And
Yeah.
that's what happens when you are coming from a place of connectedness. But when you're afraid to share, again, a lot of times entrepreneurs are afraid. They just want to put the business part out in front. They're afraid to share their personal stuff or
Yeah.
who they really are. But that's what makes people want to work with you. That's what really differentiates your business from somebody else who has a similar business. They want to know who you are.
Yeah. Absolutely. On the way to the studio, I was listening to the show, and it's about these guys do YouTube, and they're in Switzerland right now. They're about to launch a massive. They just launched a massive like beverage company, like worldwide, right? And these guys are in one of the most expensive cities in the world right now, and they were saying like how they don't fit into that world. They went to like a couple of social events. There's a couple of investors there, and they're telling their story from their point of view and using their language, and they're one of the biggest podcasts in the world. But after that conversation, that was very real. It was like, hey, I'm part of this conversation with like 3 friends, right? They all 3 own different businesses. One of them was reflecting on the year before, and he was a comedian. He would do these skits or whatever, and then he was added into the show. And he said that since he was added into the show, just the fact of sitting there and having those real conversations, right, that were out to the world, made him be in a place where he actually had to follow through what he was saying, right? So he's a man of faith. He will say that in the middle of the show. The other 2 are not of faith, like they do whatever, on their thing or whatever. But he was like, he had to back up what he was saying publicly because he was vulnerable. And he said that it was the most impactful year growth-wise, personal growth-wise, business growth-wise, like opportunities came because people connected with who he was. And I thought that was so incredible. And people that live in this world, they live in LA, so clearly like very different environment that, for example, us that live here in Florida, right? And but at the same time, at that level where you share this in front of an audience, whether that's 1 person, 2 people, or thousands or millions like they do, right? The effect is very similar because we've lived it. As he was telling that story, we lived the same thing, like with publishing, and I'm sure like you have with your incredible show, same thing, right? We share these things and we're like, oh, okay, well, I said this, I gotta back it up, right? I gotta make sure, do I really believe this? Like, is this I'm being tested right now, and I need to fulfill and honor that commitment that I just put out to the world and to the universe. So I think is a beautiful thing, and all these things mixed together with a little gratitude on top, or a lot of gratitude on top, it's a perfect equation to continue your growth and that positive impact that eventually we all want to do, and why we do these things to be able to fulfill those desires. So I think it's awesome. Thank you. You're welcome. Okay, thank you. The audience is going crazy. Okay.
Yeah, Laurie, I'm curious, what is next in your journey, right? Like with what you're building right now, what is your goal? What type, like specifically, who are you trying to help?
Yeah, I'm taking this to corporate. So
yes,
because entrepreneurship is the greatest professional and personal development journey you can go on, right? But people in corporate don't they don't necessarily know about the same tools or have access to the same information and tools. I mean, they do, but they don't go looking for it. It's not part of their daily, journey of work. So where I'm going now is to sales teams. 1, because I believe that meditation and gratitude and visualization is a shortcut to success. And what do you know, a salesperson who's not looking for a shortcut to success? So there's that. And then people in the more general sense of business on other parts of the teams, not sales teams necessarily, are so stressed out. Everybody's running around like their hair's on fire and they can't breathe because they're so overwhelmed. They're so filled with anxiety. They are paying attention to what's going on in the news. whether it's news of the inside their company internally or news of what's going on in the world, and they just don't have the tools to manage all of that. And so that's where I am right now, bringing that to them, because if the more people who learn how to feel gratitude, find and feel gratitude, and meditate so that they can be grounded, calm, coming from this place of peace.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Think about how much better the world would be if more people could just feel better.
Absolutely. So it's so good. How can people tune into like you, your show, connect with you if they are part of a corporate team and they want this? How do they reach out to you? How do they get in touch?
Yeah, my website is my company, and my website is Zen Rabbit. Of course, LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn all the time. Instagram, Zen_Rabbit, and the podcast is called F.I.N.E is a 4-letter word.
Let's go, guys. Make sure you go connect, scroll down, tap every single link. Don't just plug in, actually connect intentionally. And you won't regret it. Lori is absolutely amazing. Lori, last 2 questions. First, do you have any action points that we can leave the person that is listening right now, that they are, either right next to the speaker, pen on hand and paper and just taking notes? What is it that they can do to take one step forward towards their goal?
Oh, this is good. I'm so glad you asked that. Here's the thing. We always are finding things to complain about, right? Which is just part of human nature. Like, I can't believe it's raining today. Or I can't believe that, my 2-year-old threw a tantrum. When you catch yourself complaining, stop and go, but, and it's intentionally using the word but I'm grateful for. It's just what you talked about at the beginning of the show, but intentionally catching yourself complaining and saying, but I'm grateful for. And, normally you hear that the word but, you shouldn't use it because it cancels out whatever you just said. Like, that was a great presentation, but let me give you, now the person didn't even hear you say that was a great presentation. We're doing it intentionally here because we want to cancel out that first part of the complaint. So take that and do it for the next 24 hours, and then expand and do it for the next week, and see how your experience of life changes.
Yeah. I love it. We were both like, I was typing and FONZI was putting in there.
I put it as one of those logic, if this, then that. I was like, if complaining, then say, but I'm grateful for.
There you go.
I think that is so good.
As you were explaining, I was going back through some of the experiences where it's happened naturally because I was aware, I was in the moment. It's not often, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, man, like I saw the after effect, right? The more recent is the one that I shared, but it's very positive. The whole day was incredible. We grabbed momentum, like we started focusing on those positive things. So I was writing in here, I'm like, make this part of that, morning routine, affirmations, things that we go and do to remind myself that this is a habit that we need to build, right? And be conscious about doing this, right?
Yeah.
Love it. Thank you so much.
I was about to complain about my brother's bad jokes, but I'm grateful that we get to do this podcast together.
Wow. Hey,
excellent way to turn it around.
10 out of 10 performance right there. Thank you, Lori. I love this.
Hey,
I really love this action point.
I'm just gonna put out there that you laughed and Lori laughed. So I'm just gonna okay. Lori, last question of the show. Where would you be if you did not publish?
Where would I be if I did not publish?
Yeah.
I would probably be working at a job for somebody else. Like, I wouldn't be an entrepreneur. I mean, to me, publishing is the essence of being an entrepreneur. Like, nobody would know what I have to offer if I wasn't publishing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love
the reason we asked that question.
Blood. I don't. Yeah.
It's like asking Elon, like, hey, what how do you, what's it called? What's it called? It's like,
I don't know. Are you gonna
like,
ask?
no, it's like, it's part of you, right? Like, it's like asking Elon, it's like, hey, how are you?
How do you deal with failure?
Yeah, how do you deal with failure, right? And he's like, what? That's not even part of my language, right? That's not even part of my thing. And that's how we feel now about, the show. Is like, what do you guys do? The show is like, what do you mean? The thing is gonna live forever. It might evolve, but like it will be there forever at some degree. So thank you for that answer. The reason we ask that question is because a lot of people out there that come to us are in this period where like they're hesitating to start publishing. They're hesitating to start putting their message out there, whether that's a company or a solopreneur, right? And it's so important because people like you, for example, have been on the show and are going through this personal journey, business journey. Like it is an integral part of what they're doing. And you're serving incredible people. And it's just helping not just your business, but it's helping everybody else that listens to that message at some degree. So it's so important that we integrate these things into our daily lives and businesses.
Yeah, I just want to throw in one other thing because you said about failure and Elon Musk and his, I would challenge anybody who is using that word of failure to define what is failure for you. And on the opposite, what is success for you and what is failure for you? Make your own definition.
Yeah.
Yes. This is how I go with it. I say, if failure, then learning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm obsessed with the logical syntax
are
right
you
now.
a computer now? What's going on, man?
I'm simplifying my operational system.
I like
okay?
it. I like it.
Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication.
There you go.
Leonardo da Vinci.
I gotta agree with that. I agree.
Like I gotta give credit to credit's due. Shout out to my buddy Seth Ellsworth. He taught me that, so I just gotta give credit where credit's due.
Yeah. Lori, anything else that you want to add before we head out?
I think we covered a lot of ground here.
That was good.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
No, thank you for coming. It was absolutely amazing. It was a great time. I think this is one of the episodes where we've laughed the most.
I know. Thank you for being good game and just laughing at my bad jokes. That's it.
Yes, thank you so much.
Like, I got to be a good guest.
It was awesome.
FONZI, anything else?
No, I am ready to go. It was absolutely amazing.
Sweet.
Thank you once again, Lori. Really appreciate you.
With that said, guys, thank you so much for tuning into the Content is Profit podcast. Go ahead and follow the show on your favorite social media and at BIZBROS Co.
That is right. And if Lori here helped you move one step forward towards your goal, please don't forget to share this episode with 3 friends. And don't forget to leave a 5-star review. See ya.
Bye, guys. Sweet.
All right. We're still live.
We did a small tradition. We'll take a little bit of a selfie here.
Everybody. So if you're watching right now, big smile.
Yeah. All right. At the count of 3, here we go. 1, 2, and 3. Sweet.
All right. That's going to the Wall of Fame for sure.
See you social media. Take care. We'll see you on Wednesday.
Lori, that was absolutely amazing. Thank you so much.